Now coming on to the types of the flooding attacks. Flooding attacks take a variety of forms based on which network protocol is being used to implement the attack. Common flooding attacks use any of the ICMP, UDP or TCP SYN packet types. An ICMP flooding attack uses an ICMP packet such as ICMP echo request packets in a ping flood. This type of ICMP packet was chosen since traditionally network administrators allowed such packets into their networks. More recently, many organizations have restricted the ability of these packets to pass through their firewalls. In response, attackers have started using other ICMP packet types since some of these should be handled to allow the correct operation of TCP/IP. They are much more likely to be allowed through an organization's firewall. An alternative to using ICMP packets is to use UDP packets directed to some port number and hence potential service on the target system. Spoofed source addresses are normally used if the attack is generated using a single source system from the same reasons as with ICMP attacks. Another alternative is to send TCP packets to the target system. Most likely, these would be normal TCP connection requests with either real or spoofed source addresses. In this case, it is the total volume of packets that is the aim of the attack rather than specifically targeting the system code. This is the difference between SYN proofing attack and SYN flooding attack. Now coming on to distributed denial of service attack. Distributed denial of service or DDoS is a type of DOS attack that is performed by a number of compromised machines that all target the same victim. It floods the computer network with data packets. All of these flooding attack variants are limited in the total volume of the traffic that has been generated if just a single system is used to launch the attack. By using multiple systems, the attacker can significantly scale up the volume of traffic that can be generated. Each of these systems need not to be particularly powerful or on a high capacity link, but what they don't have individually, they more than compensate for in large numbers. These systems were typically compromised user workstations or PCs. The attacker used some well-known flaw in the operating system or in some common application to gain access to these systems and to install their own programs on it. Such systems are known as zombies. Once suitable backdoor programs are installed on these systems, they were entirely under the attacker's control. Large collections of such systems under the control of the attacker can be created collectively, forming a botnet. One of the earliest and best known DDoS tools is Tribe Flood Network, abbreviated as TFN, written by the hacker known as Mixter. The original variant from the 1990s exploited the Sun Solaris systems. It was later rewritten as Tribe Flood Network 2000 and is abbreviated as TFN2K and could run on Unix, Solaris and Windows NT systems. The agent was a Trojan program that was copied to and run on compromised zombie systems. It was capable of implementing ICMP flood SynFlood, UDP flood, and ICMP amplification forms of denial of service attacks. In DDoS attacks, although the attacker could command each zombie individually, more generally, a control hierarchy is used as shown in this slide. A small number of systems act as handlers controlling a much larger number of agent systems. There are a number of advantages to this arrangement. The attacker can send a single command to the handler, which can automatically forward it to all the agents under its control. Automated infection tools can also be used to scan for compromised suitable zombie systems. Once the agent software is uploaded to a newly compromised system, it can contact one or more handlers to automatically notify them of its availability. By this means, the attacker can automatically grow suitable botnets. TFN and TFN2K use a version of this two-layer command hierarchy. The best defense against being an unwitting participant in DDoS attack is to prevent your systems from being compromised. For the target of a DDoS attack, the response is the same as for any flooding attack, but with greater volume and complexity. There are numerous DDoS attack tools that can create a distributed denial of service attack against a targeted server. Few have been handpicked. List of these distributed denial of service attack tools as flashed on this slide. LOIC, Low Orbit Ion Cannon, is an open source software used for DDoS attack. It is written in C#. This tool sends HTTP, TCP and UDP requests to the server. High Orbit Ion Cannon is a free denial of service attack tool. It is designed to attack more than one URLs at the same time. This tool helps you to launch DDoS attacks using HTTP. HTTP Unbearable Load King is a web server DDoS tool. It is specifically used to generate volumes of traffic at the web server. DDoS Simulator is a tool that is used to create distributed denial of service attack against a target server. It is written in C++ and can be used on the Linux operating system. Pylorus is a software product for testing network vulnerability by performing DDoS attack online. It helps you to control poorly managed concurrent connections. Open Web Application Security Project HTTP Post software enables you to test your web applications for network performance. It helps you to conduct DDoS attack from a single machine. Rudy is a short form of Are You Dead Yet? It helps you to perform the DDoS attack with ease. It targets cloud applications by starvation of sessions available on the web server. You may go through these DDoS tools and try them yourself. Now we will go through the latest DDoS survey results carried out by Link 11 during first quarter of year 2020 and available online on helpnetsecurity.com website. As per this survey, the volume and the complexity of the DDoS attacks continue to grow in the first quarter of the year 2020. In the first quarter of the year 2020, the maximum bandwidth nearly doubled in comparison to the previous year. The biggest attack stopped was 406 gigabit per second. In the first quarter of 2019, the maximum bandwidth peaked at 224 gigabits per second. So you can see the difference. It is almost double. The complex multi-vector attacks are rising. The share of multi-vector attacks rose to 64% in the first quarter of year 2020, which is almost 47% up from that of the first quarter of 2019. 66% of all multi-vector attacks combined 2 to 3 vectors. More importantly, there were 19 attacks that used 10 or more different DDoS vectors compared to no reported attacks of this scale in 2019. The most frequently misused DDoS vectors. The most frequently used DDoS vectors in the first quarter of the 2020 were DNS reflection, CLDAP, NTP, and WS discovery. APIs and application under attack. As companies build new applications and services from multiple sources using APIs, they are becoming increasingly vulnerable to layer 7 attacks, which are typically low and slow compared to the network layer attacks. DDoS attackers increasingly abuse public cloud services. Nearly the half of all DDoS attacks, which is about 47% in the first quarter of the year 2020, used public cloud server based botnets compared to 31% in the previous year. Ladies and gentlemen, as per this survey, the threat landscape is changing as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. With more people working remotely, there is a greater emphasis on virtual networks which need to be accessible from multiple locations. This is creating the perfect scenario for DDoS attacks to overwhelm networks and cause serious disruption. To address this, organizations need to be more proactive in their approach to DDoS protection in order to respond to these ever-evolving threats. A very good information resource is available on link 11 as shown on this slide. This is helpnetsecurity.com. Go through this information. Each one of you must select one such type of topic and present in the webinar scheduled by the Cybersecurity Department to be held on 29th April 20 tentatively. Now we will start with reflection and amplification attacks. In contrast to distributed denial of service attacks, where the intermediaries are compromised systems running the attacker's programs, reflector and amplifier attacks use network system functioning normally. The attacker sends a network packet with a spoofed source address to a service running on some network server. The server responds to this packet, sending it to the spoofed source address that belongs to the actual attack target. If the attacker sends a number of requests to a number of servers, all with the same spoofed source address, the resulting flood of responses can overwhelm the target's network link. The fact that normal server systems are being used as intermediaries and that their handling of the packet is entirely conventional means these attacks can be easier to deploy and harder to trace back to the actual attacker. There are two basic variants of this type of attack: the simple reflection attack and the amplification attack, which we are going to discuss in the next few slides. The reflection attack is a direct implementation of this type of attack. The attacker sends packets to a known service on the intermediary with the spoofed source address of the actual target system. When the intermediary responds, the response is sent to the target. Effectively, this reflects the attack of the intermediary, which is termed the reflector, and is why this is called a reflection attack. Ideally, the attacker would like to use a service that created a larger response packet than the original request. This allows the attacker to convert a lower volume stream of packets from the originating system into a higher volume of packets from the intermediary directed at the target. Common UDP services are often used for this purpose. Another variant of reflection attack uses TCP SYN packets and exploits the normal three-way handshake used to establish a TCP connection. Fundamental to the success of reflection attacks is the ability to create source spoofed packets. If filters are in place which block source spoofed packets, then these attacks are simply not possible. Amplification attacks are a variant of reflector attacks that differ in generating multiple response packets for each original packet sent. This can be achieved by directing the original request to the broadcast address for some network. As a result, all hosts on the network can potentially respond to the request, generating a flood of responses as shown in figure in this slide. It is only necessary to use a service handled by large number of hosts on the intermediate network. A ping flood using ICMP echo request packets was a common choice used by the SMRF denial of service program. Another possibility is to use a suitable UDP service such as the echo service, which is the Fragile denial of service program used. The best additional defense against this form of attack is to not allow directed broadcasts to be routed into a network from outside. A further variant of a reflection or amplification attack uses packets directed at a legitimate DNS server as the intermediary system. They gain attack amplification by exploiting the behavior of the DNS protocol to convert a small request into a much larger response. Using the classic DNS protocol, a 60-byte UDP request packet can easily result in a 512-byte UDP response, the maximum traditionally allowed. More recently, the DNS protocol has been extended to allow much larger response responses of over 4,000 bytes. To support extended DNS features such as IP version 6, security, and others. By targeting the servers that support the extended DNS protocol, significantly greater amplification can be achieved than with the classic DNS protocol. In this attack, a selection of suitable DNS servers with good network connections are chosen. The attacker creates a series of DNS requests containing the spoofed source address of the target system. These are directed at a number of selected named servers. They respond to these requests, sending the replies to the spoofed source, which appears to them to be a legitimate requesting system. The target is then flooded with their responses. Because of the amplification achieved, the attacker need only generate a moderate flow of packets to cause a larger amplified flow of flood and overflow the link to the target system. Whilst the intermediate systems will not experience significant loads, by using a number of high capacity well connected systems, the attacker can ensure they are not overloaded, allowing the attack to proceed. There are a number of steps that can be taken to both limit the consequences of being the target of a denial of service attack and also to limit the chance of your systems being compromised, then used to launch denial of service attacks. It is important to recognize that these attacks cannot be prevented entirely, as high traffic volumes may sometimes occur by accident as a result of high publicity about a specific site or due to extreme popularity of a site. For example, a posting to the well-known Slash.news aggregation site often results in overload of reference server system. Similarly, when popular sporting events like the Olympics or the Soccer World Cup matches occur, sites reporting on them experience very high traffic levels. Also, if an attacker can direct a large enough volume of legitimate traffic to your system, then there is a high chance this will overwhelm its network connection and thus limit legitimate traffic requests from other users. There is very little that can be done to prevent this type of either accidental or deliberate overload without also compromising network performance. The provision of significant excess network bandwidth and replicated distributed servers is the usual response, particularly when the overload is anticipated. In general, there are 4 lines of defense against distributed denial of service attacks. The first is attack prevention and preemption before the attack. These mechanisms enable the victim to endure attack attempts without denying service to legitimate clients. Second is attack detection and filtering during the attack. These mechanisms attempt to detect the attack as it begins and respond immediately. Attack source trackback and identification is during and after the attack. This is the third one. This is an attempt to identify the source of the attack as a first step in preventing the future attacks. Number 4 is attack reaction, that is after the attack. This is an attempt to eliminate or curtail the effects of an attack. Attack prevention. A critical component of many denial of service attacks is the use of spoofed source addresses. One of the fundamental and longest standard recommendations of defense against these attacks is to limit the ability of the systems to send packets with spoofed source addresses. This filtering needs to be done as close to the source as possible by routers or gateways knowing the valid address ranges of incoming packets. Typically, this is the ISP providing the network connection for an organization or home user. Regrettably, despite this being a well-known recommendation by RFC 2827, many ISPs still do not perform this type of filtering. Any defenses against flooding attacks needs to be located back in the internet cloud, not at a target organization's boundary router, since this is usually located after the resource being attacked. The filters must be applied to traffic before it leaves the ISP's network or even at the point of entry to their network. Some attacks using particular packet types such as ICMP floods or UDP floods to diagnostic services can be throttled by imposing limits on the rate at which these packets will be accepted. It is possible to specifically defend against the SYN spoofing attack by using a modified version of TCP connection handling code. Instead of saving the connection details on the server, critical information about the requested connection is cryptographically encoded in a cookie that is sent as the server's initial sequence number. Typically, this technique is only used when the table overflows. Alternatively, the system's TCP/IP network code can be modified to selective drop or random drop, an entry for an incomplete connection from the TCP connections table when it overflows, allowing a new connection attempt to proceed. The best defense against broadcast amplification attacks is to block the use of IP-directed broadcasts. This can be done either by the ISP or by any organizations whose systems could potentially be used as an intermediary. This, along with anti-spoofing filters, are long-standing security recommendations that all organizations ought to implement. More generally, limiting or blocking traffic to suspicious services or combinations of source and destination ports can restrict the types of reflected attacks that can be used against an organization. Defending against attacks on application resources generally requires modification to the applications targeted, such as web servers. Defenses may involve attempts to identify legitimate, generally human-initiated interactions from automated DOS attacks. These often take the form of a graphical puzzle which is easy for most humans to solve but difficult to automate. Beyond these direct defenses against denial of service attack mechanisms, overall good system security practices should be maintained. The aim is to ensure that that your systems are not compromised and used as zombie systems. Suitable configuration and monitoring of high performance, well-connected servers is also needed to help ensure they don't contribute to the problem as potential intermediary servers. If an organization is dependent on network services, they should consider mirroring and replicated these servers over multiple sites with multiple network connections. This is good general practice for high performance servers, providing greater levels of reliability and fault tolerance in general, not just as a response to these types of attacks. Now coming on to responding to the attacks. In order to successfully respond to a denial of service attack, a good incident response plan is needed. including details of how to contact technical personnel for your internet service providers. Denial of service attacks, particularly flooding attacks, can only be filtered upstream of your network connection. The plan should also contain details of how to respond to the attack. The division of responsibilities between the organizational personnel and ISP will depend on resources available and technical capabilities of the organization. Within an organization, you should have implemented the standard anti-spoofing, directed broadcast, and rate limiting filters we have discussed earlier. Ideally, you should also have some form of automated network monitoring and intrusion detection system running so that personnel will be notified and of the abnormal traffic which is detected. When a denial of service attack is detected, the first step is to identify the type of attack and hence the best approach to defense against it. Typically, this involves capturing packets flowing into the organization and analyzing them, looking for common attack packet types. This may be done by organizational personnel or ISP, depending on relevant expertise. From this analysis, the type of attack is identified and suitable filters designed to block the flow of the attack packets. These have to be installed by the ISP on their routers. If the attack targets a bug on the system or application rather than high traffic volumes, then this must be identified and steps taken to correct it to prevent future attacks. The organization may also wish to ask their ISP to trace the flow of packets back in an attempt to identify their source. However, if spoofed sources addresses are used, this can be difficult and time consuming. Whether this is attempted may well depend on whether the organization intends to report the attack to the relevant law enforcement agencies. In such a case, additional evidence must be collected and actions documented to support any subsequent legal action. In the case of an extended concerted attack, it may not be possible to successfully filter enough of the attack packets to restore network connectivity. In such cases, the organization needs a contingency strategy to switch to the alternate backup servers or to rapidly commission new servers at a new site with new addresses in order to restore service. Without forward planning to achieve this, the consequence of such attack will be extended loss of a network connectivity. Following the immediate response, the organization's incident response policy may specify further steps that are taken to respond to contingencies like this. Now coming on to the summary of the chapter 8, we have introduced the denial of service attacks, the classic flooding and SYN spoofing attacks. We have gone through ICMP, UDP, TCP SYN flooding attacks. We have also gone through various types of distributed denial of service attacks and its tools as well. Reflection and amplification attacks have been discussed in detail. Then the defenses against DOS attacks and the response plan to the DOS attacks has been amply discussed. This comes to the end of this chapter and this lecture as well. The second part will be the demo part with respect to the denial of service attacks. The assignments which are related to this chapter and lecture are as flashed on this slide. Please go through the review questions from 7.1 to 7.18. Submit the answer sheets during the next class. The other assignment is the use of the open source tools as discussed on slide 15, and give a demo after 2 weeks. I have already planned a webinar which we are pending since start of the semester. It was actually a seminar, but in the present COVID-19 situation, we can move on with the webinar. And the theme of the webinar is distributed denial of service attacks, latest trends and their countermeasures. It is tentatively scheduled on 29th April 20. Select any one topic by each student as per slide 19. A 15 minutes presentation followed by a 5-minute question answer session will be there for each student. One male and female student will act as a moderator, and the session will be recorded and may be uploaded on YouTube if it is of a good quality. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patient listening. And now the house is open for question and answer session. You may shoot your questions if you have any. This is my contact information. You can submit your assignments and you can forward your queries on these email, and you may contact on voice as well. Relevant address and contact information is provided on this slide. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.